What up, guys? The Bench Buddies are back with our weekly bracketology video. And, it's already been some chaos since our last video, and it is updated as of yesterday morning, the 1st. So it will be a little inaccurate here as we had a lot of big games yesterday. But let's just dive right into this video here. Obviously, the top overall seed is Auburn still with a huge win yesterday against rival Alabama. West Virginia, a team that was on the rise and slowly took a hit. And Wyoming, a team that no one's really talking about just because, it's Wyoming. I mean, no one ever talks about that school. We're gonna jump to on the bubble here. And Ty, what team are you looking out for here on the bubble?
Well, obviously things have changed already after one day. So Creighton will be at least on last four byes because they won at Uconn last night. A huge win for them. I believe Lunardi's put out his bubble again today, updated. Notre Dame has moved up. But Oregon, I say them every week. They're still a team to watch out for. Head scratching loss to Colorado, but I still think they're the team that is going to easily get into the field that's not in right now.
And we're talking about Creighton pulling off a huge upset on the road yesterday at UConn. That obviously will probably move them into at least the last four byes because that's a huge win. And we were talking about that UConn team finally being healthy, so there's really no excuses there. It's kind of surprising to see that Loyola team already in the last four byes. After just one loss. There's not really too much confidence, I guess, in that team, but. We're going to move down here to the play-in games. The only games that really matter are the Florida, Wyoming, San Diego State, Creighton. So I'm going to have Creighton and Florida moving on there.
Yeah, I'll go with Florida and San Diego State. But those games could both go either way.
And moving to the Midwest region, obviously you got number one Auburn, the best overall seed, and I think it's going to be a cruise for them to the Sweet 16. They will play in Miami, who could give them a fit, but I just don't see it in the way Auburn's playing right now. Illinois should get past whoever they play. Providence, my sleeper team, pretty much the team I'm rooting for this year just because Michigan is not good this year. But I think Providence could beat Illinois. It seems like they get production out of whoever's playing for Providence because there's no really superstar on that team. And, one guy could drop 20 a night, the next guy could drop 20. So it's kind of pick your poison with that team. And I think they can get to the Sweet 16 as well to play Auburn. And moving down to the bottom tier of that bracket, this is where things get kind of interesting. I'm going to have that Colorado State upset, beat USC, and Kansas will win, but Kansas will move to the Sweet 16 as well. And Michigan State will play North Carolina. I think Xavier is starting to slowly fall off. They were a good team in the Big East for the first half, and now they're starting to play the better teams, and it's not really looking good for them. But I think Michigan State will have the edge against North Carolina, squeaking out a tough win yesterday against Maryland. But I think they will be able to move on. And we're going to have Auburn, Providence. We're going to go with Auburn just because you can't bet against Auburn right now. And then you got Michigan State, Kansas. This is pretty much a coin flip game, and we're going to go with Kansas. I think it's just tough to bet against Kansas at this position. But then again, it's Izzo. But it really isn't going to matter because I got Auburn going to the Final Four.
All right, so up at the top, I think Auburn does cruise through to the Sweet 16. I'm going to say Oklahoma beats Miami. Pretty much a coin flip game there between those two. I'm going to go with a big upset here, just winging a prayer. Give me Vermont over Providence. Vermont's an underrated team this year, very good shooting, and they're going to pull an upset over Providence. Illinois cruises past them, easy road for them now with Providence gone. So you got Auburn and Illinois up there. I'm going to go with North Carolina as well. Let's see who I had. I actually have North Carolina getting past Xavier and then upsetting Michigan State. I always pick a couple double-digit seeds to move on. They're going to be one of them. And I think Kansas cruises past USC in the second round. So you got Auburn and Illinois. Auburn's going to be my one seed to get upset this year, as of right now, at least. I'm going to go with Illinois. I think they match up well with Auburn, and they can pull that upset. And Kansas should easily get past 11 seed North Carolina, setting you up with Kansas and Illinois, and I'm going to go with Kansas. Too much depth for Illinois. So Kansas in the Final Four.
And moving over to the West side, We got Gonzaga controlling the 1 seed, obviously, because they won't be playing anybody for the rest of the year until March Madness. And once again, they should cruise to the Sweet 16. If they do play Arkansas, it could get interesting. Arkansas was a preseason top 25 team, and we could see what they can do tournament time. But now, Texas Tech, Ohio State. I don't really have too much confidence in Ohio State, so I'm taking them to get upset against Toledo. And we said it in our last video on this. Some team in the MAC's actually pretty decent this year, and whoever represents the MAC, I think, will pull off an upset. So we got Toledo beating Ohio State, but their luck will run out against Texas Tech, which will match them up against Gonzaga. But moving down to the bottom of the bracket, LSU will get upset as well, and I think that'll be Creighton. Creighton will beat them, and Wisconsin will move on and beat Creighton as well. So they'll be in the Sweet 16. And then I think UCLA runs the table here. They should easily get past Seattle. I didn't even know just Seattle was a school, in all honesty. And you have Iowa and Seton Hall, two teams that were good last year, and now are still trying to figure out how things are going to work out with their best players gone. So I think UCLA should easily move on. So that leads you to a Gonzaga, Texas Tech, and Wisconsin versus UCLA. Gonzaga should beat Texas Tech. Just who's going to stop Chet Holmgren? I think in that game, that's what's going to come down to. And Wisconsin and UCLA will probably be the best game of this Sweet 16, I think. And I have Wisconsin pulling off the upset here. I think Johnny Davis, he's just going to take over this game, and it's going to be a battle of the guards. And he's just going to, unfortunately for UCLA, they won't be able to do enough to get past Wisconsin. But moving to Gonzaga, Wisconsin, I mean, this is another coin flip game, I think, in my opinion. Gonzaga has the size, but Wisconsin has the guards. And it's really going to come down to rebounding at the end of the day. It always does, it seems like. So you got to give that edge to Gonzaga. So I got Gonzaga and Auburn right now in my final four.
All right, I agree that Gonzaga and Arkansas could be, an interesting game. Arkansas was, supposed to be a great team to start the season. They're starting to find themselves, but I think Gonzaga gets through Arkansas in the second round. Texas Tech, they've been looking great lately. I think they're much better than a 4 seed. I think they should get through Ohio State there in the second round. And then here's where I have some upsets. I'm going with San Diego State over LSU or Creighton, whoever wins that. And then I think they actually are going to upset Wisconsin in the second round. So I have my second 11 seed in the Sweet 16. I'm going to San Diego State. And then we'll go with UCLA, Iowa, Seton Hall. Both of those teams playing terrible right now. I'll go with Iowa. So UCLA should easily get through them. Back to the top, Gonzaga, Texas Tech. That'll be a great matchup, but I do think Gonzaga has the edge, a little too much talent. And then UCLA should get through San Diego State fairly easily, setting up a rematch, Gonzaga, UCLA. And as much as I want to go with UCLA, Gonzaga buried them early in the season, just absolutely killed them. I think it'll be closer, but I'm going to go with Gonzaga again. So I have Illinois and Gonzaga so far.
Moving down to the East, we got Purdue as the 1 seed. I think that'll change come March Madness just because how super inconsistent the season has been so far. But as of right now, they should move on, beat Colgate. And then I think this is where it gets interesting. I have TCU giving Purdue a game, but they won't get upset. Purdue will move on thanks to Jaden Ivey and move to the Sweet 16. Then moving to Buffalo region here, Marquette and Ionia. I think this is going to be a very interesting 5-12 matchup, but I've been really high on Shaka Smart and that Marquette Golden Eagle team, so I think I got to have them move on. But I'm going with Drake here to upset Tennessee. I mean, I just, for some reason, am not a fan of Tennessee this year, and it seems like every year they're in this 5-4 seed range, and, maybe they win one game at best. So I just have no confidence in Tennessee. So I got Drake playing Marquette. And I think Drake will be upsetting Marquette as well. And, there's always a 10 or higher seed moving on in the Sweet 16 at least once every year. And I think Drake's going to be that team this year. And then moving to Pittsburgh, Texas, Davidson, that should be a really good matchup, as we've seen Davidson already upset, Alabama when they were highly ranked. And Texas, with how they played last night, I think I got to give the upper hand here to Davidson. So another upset here. but it won't matter because Villanova will beat Wagner and cruise past Davidson to move to the Sweet 16. And then moving down to Greenville, Indiana, Murray State, Duke, and Princeton. This would be a very interesting little four group of teams here. I think Duke should easily move on. But that Indiana Murray State game probably might be the best, game of this round of 64, just because those two teams compete. And Murray State is a team that's flying way under the radar this year. What are they? 20-2, I believe, 21-2.
Yeah.
And then they lost to Auburn as one of their losses. So you really don't know who's going to win that game. It's going to be a coin flip, but I'll go with Murray State here in the upset. And I think they give Duke a game as well. And I'm going to go with Murray State upsetting Duke, and they'll be playing Villanova in the Sweet 16. But unfortunately, their luck runs out. So I got to go Villanova to the Elite Eight, and they will be playing Purdue because I think Drake's luck runs out as well. So it's Purdue, Villanova, and once again, I think coaching matters at the end of the day. So I got to give it to Jay Wright and the Villanova Wildcats, and they'll be moving on to the Final Four.
Yeah, this is an interesting region, not one of the strongest, in my opinion. I'm gonna go with Purdue over St. Mary's there in the second round. Toss up 8-9 game there. And then the weakest 4-5 section for sure comes in this region. Tennessee, the weakest 4 seed. Marquette, in my opinion, the weakest 5 seed. I'm gonna go with Tennessee over Iona in the second round, but really any of those 4 teams could go to the Sweet 16. But I'm gonna go with Tennessee, the highest seed. Texas and Davidson, like you said, could be a good matchup. Either way, I'm going with Villanova over Texas. Texas has been playing kind of poorly lately. But I'm going to agree with you on this one. I'm going to go with Indiana, but I do think Indiana is going to upset Duke. I just think it's going to be an early ending to the Coach K last season. And then so you go back up to the top, Purdue and Tennessee. I think Purdue should coast past Tennessee. And then you got Villanova and Indiana. And you got to go with Jay Wright in that one. So you got Purdue and Villanova, Elite Eight, same as yours. And I am also going to go with Villanova upsetting Purdue. Purdue has underperformed in tournaments, seems like the last 5 years. And I'm going to say it continues. Give me Villanova.
And moving over to the South, our last region here, Baylor is the 1 seed. I think that could be changing as well, just with, how college basketball landscape has been this year. And I think they will easily move to the Sweet 16 as well. I don't really see a 1 seed being in danger this year as of right now to not get the Sweet 16. But BYU will win that game, and I think it'll be close in the first half, but Baylor will pull away, just show they're the better team. Moving over to Pittsburgh, Alabama, and Chattanooga. I think this is going to be the time Alabama plays good, and they will move on. But they will lose to Houston in the round of 32, even without Sasser. I mean, we've talked about it in our rankings video that this Houston team somehow hasn't skipped a beat, losing their best player. So I think they'll get to the Sweet 16 to face Baylor. But moving down to the bottom of the bracket, Uconn, San Francisco. I think San Francisco gets the upset here over Uconn, a very underrated team in the West Coast Conference. And Uconn, we saw them lose last night to Creighton. So they'll probably be moving down a little bit. But Arizona, Weber State, Arizona should move on. Even though they might be our biggest fraud this year, I think they should easily get past this team. But I think San Francisco will pull an upset against Arizona and move them out and put San Francisco into the Sweet 16. And then I think down here is a very good 7-10 matchup as well. Iowa State, the team came out of nowhere. If you're based it off of last year, Loyola, it seems like they're always in this range and they somehow can ripple off a few wins. So give me Loyola again over Iowa State in an upset. Kentucky will move on. And I think Kentucky will beat Loyola on a buzzer beater or a very close game because Loyola plays all their opponents tough in March. But moving back to the top of this, you got Baylor, Houston. Give me Houston. I think they're on a magical run so far this year. Normally when teams lose their best player, it takes them a few games to recover, but really they haven't had to this year. And, a tough loss to Alabama, I believe, at their place, in the last few seconds. since then, I think this Houston team has won every game. So I don't know. There's something Houston is clicking over there in Kelvin Sampson's team, and they're doing pretty well. But moving to the bottom, we got San Francisco and Kentucky. I mean, come on, guys, that should be a blowout. The way Kentucky has been playing, obviously dismantling Kansas on their own court, that should be an easy pick, no brainer. So you got Kentucky and Houston. And give me Kentucky because, well, if they play like they do against Kansas, I don't see how they're not a Final Four team.
Yeah, I do think this is the strongest of the four regions, at least in terms of the top four seeds. These are very solid teams that, all of the seeds 2 through 4, in my opinion, could be one seed higher. That being said, I'm going to go with Baylor over BYU in the second round. Alabama, they are so tough to pick. I'm just going to say Houston beats Alabama. We'll give Alabama one game, but they don't play 2 good games in a row. So I don't see them getting to the Sweet 16. Houston gets through. Arizona, I think, beats Uconn, who wins a close game over San Francisco, but Arizona, too much talent for them, so they get to the Sweet 16. And then Iowa State Loyola, if you like points, I would not watch that game. This could be first to 40 wins. Both of these teams are all defense. But you can't pick against Loyola in a game like this. They get out of the first round. That's what they do. But give me Kentucky over Loyola. So top 4 seeds all move on in this bracket. Baylor, Houston. That's going to be a close game. A lot of defense being played, but too much scoring from Baylor. I think they win a very close game over Houston. And Kentucky, they're on a mission this year. They've been dominant. You got to take them to beat Arizona. And I think Kentucky's going to beat Baylor here in the Elite Eight. John Calipari's got a team this year, and I think they get to the Final Four.
So talking about our Final Fours, I have Auburn, and then I have Villanova on the left side. On the right side, I have Gonzaga, and I also have Houston or Kentucky as well. So I'm moving to the left side. I mean, Auburn, Villanova, a classic game, I think. Jay Wright, is a great coach, but at the end of the day, coaching only goes so far because you're not playing the game. And sometimes it comes down to, just what can your players do outside of coaching. And I think Auburn has those guys, more talented basketball hooper guys. So I think you got to give Auburn the edge here. And I think they'll be favored as well in this game. And I think Auburn will move to the national championship. And they will be playing the Kentucky Wildcats. Yes, it'll be an SEC championship. I think Kentucky has an edge over Gonzaga. I'm strictly basing this off of that blowout win against Kansas. I mean, I can't say it enough how hard it is to go in there, beat Bill Self at his own place, and then not just beating him, but really game was over 10 minutes into the first half. It really shows how good this Kentucky team has become. At the beginning of the year, there was kind of a stretch there where, okay, what's Kentucky going to do this year? They don't really know. But now they've figured themselves out and set them up for prime position here in the national championship. So you have Auburn, Kentucky, probably. I honestly don't know who could win this game. But if we're going chalk, you got to go with Auburn, the hottest team in college basketball right now. So give me Auburn to win the national championship after, being a team that really was thought of at the beginning of the year of being a bubble team at best.
Yeah, so I have Kansas and Villanova, and then Gonzaga and Kentucky in my Final Four. So 3 of the 4 we agree on. Kansas, Villanova, just the way Kansas has struggled as of late, it seems like they go through stretches where they just can't find any scoring. I'm going to go with Villanova, getting through Kansas. And I think a lot of people have forgotten about Villanova lately, but I think they get to the national championship. And Gonzaga and Kentucky, 2 teams that really need a national championship. Kentucky, it's been 10 years, and Gonzaga's never won one. They've been here a lot. But unfortunately for them, I'm going to go with Kentucky to get through and play Villanova. Like I said, it just seems like Kentucky's on a mission this year, and that's why I'm going to say they get through Villanova and get back on top and win the national championship.
And that'll be it for our bracketology video this week. Make sure you come back next week to see how much things have changed already and if we have different national champions as well. But until our next video, the Bench Buddies are out.
She never called back.